have some breaking news for you guys. The House passes Trump's massive war spending bill. Oh, yeah, you heard it. That's what we're calling it. We heard all the other names. We heard the big, beautiful bill. We've heard the big BS bill. We've heard a lot of names for this thing. And I think it was Jamie Cheeseslice. He, on the ones and twos, he said he thinks this is going to be known. History is going to know it as, what did he say? The
Death of America bill.
The Death of America bill. That, you know what? I can't argue with that one. That sounds like it might end up going this way. So let's look at what this just went down. Trump's big, beautiful bill. Blitz, carrots, sticks, and a July 4th victory. Wow. What theater working out. You can't script this any better. Well, it sounds like it was scripted. The president spent nearly a full day pushing his domestic policy bill across the finish line in the House. Now the White House is planning a victory tour. Of course they are. This is very television star reality show of him. This is insane because this thing went all through the night. And what we heard, Kit, we heard so many back and forth about how this was unfolding. There were people saying this is dead in the water. It was going to happen in the middle of the night. Then the Republicans were getting scared. They backed off. They were afraid of Trump. Right now, I just want to talk through a couple of the things that happened just in the last 48 hours, so people know how this is working, because it started in the House a few weeks ago and passed the first round. And that's when we got word that there was some really shady stuff in this thing, like the AI clause in there that says that the states have, for 10 years, states cannot amend anything to do with AI in this bill. And then we heard people like Marjorie Taylor Greene speak up and say, I wish I knew that. I wouldn't have voted for it. So, okay, well, it went from the House to the Senate. And then this was just under 48 hours ago. The Senate basically passed it after a marathon voting session. And then it was headed back to the House, which it just passed right now in the interim. And I want to look up. I want to look to see the update on Elon, but he was insanely furious 2 days ago when he said every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for this biggest debt increase in history should hang their heads in shame, and they will lose their primary next year if it's the last thing I do on this earth. So he's playing the quote unquote Trump card when he says, I'm going to do what's in my power to punish you for voting on something like this. So, and then he follows it up with this. I don't know if you saw this one, Kit, that he says, if this goes through, which looks like it just did, the American Party is what he's going to form, because Elon thinks our country finally is in need of an alternative to a Democratic Republican uniparty so people can actually have a voice. What an amazing idea. We never thought of that one before, but it looks like he might be doing this as of today. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, I'm actually looking at the social media account of Elon Musk on X, and I see no comment as of yet. But I do find it hilarious that Elon Musk is open to the idea of a third party, Greens, Libertarians, and all the other third parties I've ever had on my show. I guess they didn't get the memo. So what I would say to Elon is like, look, you funded Donald Trump. You should know who he is. And look, Matt, again, stop me at any point. This is your show.
Yeah, go for it.
But, I recently did a movie review of The Apprentice, which came out on Apple TV. No, it is inexcusable for anyone that has been following politics to not only see The Apprentice, but also all of the time Donald Trump has actually been in physical media. No one should be surprised by his actions. Elon Musk, you gave money to this man's campaign. Did you really think you're going to have absolute control with somebody with this amount of ego? This is rather shocking and embarrassing that, you have people who are shocked and surprised that Trump is going to do this and then screw over the people who might have given him a push or money. All right. And the other issue is that you're saying you want an American party. Well, okay, that sounds good on paper, but there's a whole political system that's designed to prevent third parties and independents from being on the ballot, from being on the debate stage. And that means you're spending a good chunk of your capital dealing with Illinois state law. Sorry. I got so much PTSD covering third parties in Illinois. That's like, oh yeah, Illinois. But there's Illinois and other states that are just as draconian, some maybe less. You have to deal with those state laws than the federal laws. And I'm not saying it can't be done, but you helped fund this. You helped Trump get to office. And yes, it was inevitable that Trump was going to win. The Democrats ran a piss poor campaign. But the fact that the big, beautiful bill did happen and that the Republicans had control of the Senate and the House, no one should be surprised that this is going to be Trump's first big win, but there's a price to it, and that means Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security disability insurance, and other social safety net programs like SNAPs and everything else. A lot of Americans could very well get hurt, or either that, people are going to struggle even more so now more than ever. And every decision a person makes now is wondering, well, gee, can I pay my bill? Gee, can I put food in my stomach? Gee, can I put gas in my car? These are going to be a lot of things, and there's a price tag to this, and it's going to be a survival mindset that all of us are going to have. Plus, there's the genie in the bottle of AI. Look, artificial intelligence is not going to be regulated for 10 years. We don't really know the absolute power of AI fully unleashed. And from the stories that I've covered, and one that I did with the post-duopoly show was Due Dissidence, was Russell and then Nick from RBN. Look, we were talking about a story where this one artificial program was released in a, I guess, outside environment, even though it was a controlled environment. And when the operators told it to stop doing malicious things, it refused. I don't think we're prepared to go prepared for the price of AI unregulated, and actually, should it escape, what it could potentially do to not only our identities, but our livelihoods in a world that is, well, not ready for a very different future. 10 years from now, what will it look like? Will you and I be having a conversation like, remember before AI took over, Matt? I mean, that is a situation that has me deeply concerned.
Yeah, no. And I said, I'll cut that in half to 5 years. I think just surviving to 2030 seems to be the name of the game right now. Can we even get through the next 5 years? This thing is the AI technology. It is rapidly, exponentially taking over the way we even look at our lives and how we function on this planet. To a point we're not even going. There's no way we're even going to be keep up with it. Not just in a mental, spiritual way, but even just in a economic way, and just how we even get through the day when everything in our face is based on targeted propaganda that is personalized to us, and we have to be smarter than it. And this is why we do these shows. This is why we do this, guys. And you guys watching us right now is why, because we have to educate ourselves and condition ourselves. This is our gym training time. We have to be training every day for the big fight. And the big fight is we're going to wake up. You're going to be in a ring with Apollo Creed, and he's going to kick your ass. That's AI if you're not fully prepared for this battle. So we have to condition our critical thinking minds. How are we going to fight back? Because that's the way I think we do it, kid, is we make sure we get those tribal goggles off, and we go full force with critical thinking. That's what we have to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the thing is, we cannot, here's the thing. I don't want to give credit to Democrats because, we got to remember, here's what's going to happen. Now that the big, beautiful bill has passed, you better believe that the Democrats are going to be propagandized and going to be running on, you got to help us get in the office so we can reverse this, which they're not going to do. They have a track record of talking that big game and then not doing the Uno reverse card. I think the Republicans are going to be paying the price for it politically in 2026. Democrats could potentially, they have a strong likelihood to take over the House. Maybe there's a potential where they could get the Senate, or it's the Senate split 50-50. But should they even get control of the Senate and House, or either that they control one chamber and maybe half the other chamber, they're not going to reverse it. They're not going to reverse it. And they're going to be talking this game of, let's bring in this blue wave, and it's not going to change a thing. I want everyone to understand, not to be gloom and doom, but this is the only way to get people involved now. Once people start suffering, and once there's enough blood in the street, once you hear enough stories about people just losing everything, then you're going to have an active, involved populace, which again could be at risk of being hijacked by Democrats by saying, make our lives better, and then we all go back to sleep thinking that the Democrats will help us. They will not reverse it. These changes will not happen, and it's not going to be electoral politics that's going to get us out of it. Citizen ballot initiatives, third parties, independents, movements and organizations not connected to DC, mutual aid. That's what's going to get us out of this fight. And if we don't, just remember, folks, in case independent media is censored, because we could not be here talking this way, you have to carry on that torch. And remember, everything that we have said here, you have to be your own voice in your community. That means you have to step up. If you're watching this show right now, prepare yourself to be a leader. Prepare to hold community meetings and sit down with people face to face. Break the barriers. Talk to people who might be different, politically different than you, because this is all going to screw us over. And if you think the Democrats controlling the House and Senate in 2026 is what's going to save the day, they can't reverse this. This is permanent. It's here to stay.
Before we move on this, because I do want to spend some time on Palantir. That's the thing that nobody on the left knows. But you brought up the Democrats' response to this, and like we have to. This is where we need to be the loudest right now with people that we know are coming from a good place, but they're not getting the full story. So we'll get to Palantir in a moment. But first, this is the kind of thing we're seeing before this thing passed. We're seeing these are like lefty accounts that are putting this up. And there's nothing wrong. I mean, all of this is stuff to shout about. Cutting Medicaid by $6.25 billion, cutting SNAP by $300 billion, cutting student aid by $351 billion. And you know what? This tripled the budget of ICE. That's important. But I don't know if they fully understand the connection ICE has with Palantir, and the fact that this is the reason we're calling this Trump's massive war bill is because overall, underneath all of this is the war agenda, war, AI, surveillance state agenda. That's the main thrust. So we can talk about Medicaid, SNAP, and student aid, but make no mistake, these things have been cut before. And I want to remind people, I don't have the image in front of me, but I'm going to tell you guys, if you don't remember this, when we were all in lockdown in 2020, 2021, Biden comes into office, and we had this upward transfer of wealth. They say we couldn't even see the paper trail of it. It was up to $5 trillion. The CARES Act, which passed in 2020. And sometime between that point and Biden took office, we had at least 50 million people taken off of Medicaid. That happened. So where were your voices then? Now, I'm not saying this is horrible, but try to understand the perspective here that it's not, we need to vote blue down the ticket. We got to vote blue down the ticket. That's so what you're saying is very, very important, because it's not just get rid of this uniquely evil orange guy and then everything will go back to normal. That's not how this is going to go. We have to do better than this. And if you notice on this list, and you see the ones, the go-tos, the Planned Parenthood, that's always been a thing. Get rid. That's what the Republicans always wanted to do, that stuff. So there's a lot of horrible stuff on here. Notice what's not on this list, Kit. You don't have the Democrats shouting at the top of their lungs about the military spending.
Yeah,
we have now added $320 billion more to our war spending. That has happened as of right now, and nobody is. I don't want to say nobody, but it doesn't seem to be the first thing out of the mouths of Democrats. Have you noticed the same thing? They're not talking about that.
Well, the reason why is because, they, first of all, they need that money, baby. They need that money for their new house. New cars can't buy themselves. I mean, come on, these Democrats are politicians too. Plus, they're investors. They're doing that insider trading. Look, I need everyone to understand, and I think, and this is no disrespect to Gen Z, but I think boomers, Xers, and millennials are going to be the last generation to remember maybe a time when there was possibly upward mobility, when there was a time when your work was put in, you can live a good life, go on vacation, all that good stuff. Right now, the world that's going to be left behind, and I think Gen Z will just be on the cusp. Like they see that there was something there, and then after Gen Z, it's going to be nothing but like struggle, because now we're going to be entering into an economy to where, okay, you got these corporate tech overlord guys who are foaming at the mouth, jumping up and down, all excited because they get AI to do robots, automation, artificial intelligence, to do work that normally people would be doing, okay? There isn't going to be a world left for working class people. There isn't going to be an economy left for people to do anything. You have latte drinking liberals all excited that now there's AI at a McDonald's restaurant so they can order their hamburger and have some robot person, robot automation, to serve them their burger. You're going to have people who are going to just not notice that there's millions of people unemployed, and that's the world that we're going to be walking into if this is what's truly going to happen. Worst case scenario. Plus, not to mention somebody loses their Medicaid or Medicare, or even Social Security. I mean, that's a heavy loss to them. People losing SNAP benefits. A person can only take so much to where they either snap and act violent, or they snap and fall into despair. And I got to be careful because you're on YouTube, where they could just self-harm, self-delete. Yeah. And then there's also the aspect of, what is the incentive of even having a family or going to college? Like this is what's going to cause like a decrease in people wanting to, I guess, live a life. And I'm not saying no one's not going to want to live, but it's just, this is a very, there's a lot of uncertainty here. And I don't think anybody realizes the price that's going to have to be paid. And it's a human price. So everyone needs to be aware of overall the cost. And then there's the debt that we're going to be giving to the next generation. The debt that is not their fault, but they'll be born into it. So to everyone who might be excited about the big, beautiful bill, okay, you got to win. Are you prepared for the price for it? And what happens when one day you're not part of that club and you're outside with the rest of us, Paul folk?
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually going to follow up with this right now, because I think people need to see the connection here. And maybe this is enough. Maybe this is enough to get some lefties really angry about this beyond the Medicare and beyond. I mean, of course, again, it's horrible. That's a horrible SNAP, student aid, all cut. But this part, look, okay, this is the mass surveillance under Palantir, and that's Alex Karp. If you guys don't know, Alex Karp up in this picture, Palantir, the tech companies, ties to U.S. military, ICE, and the IDF. Wow, look at that. Palantir's reach now extends throughout the government and across borders, creating an unprecedented apparatus of control. Since Trump's return to office, the company has secured massive new contracts, including the initial $480 million for Project Maven, the Pentagon's AI drone targeting system, which has now expanded to $1.3 billion. $30 million for Immigration OS. That's the ICE immigrant tracker, and contracts for the Space Force's C2 data platform. You think this is nothing to do with the current administration and what they've been pushing? You think this has nothing to do with the ICE raids we had here in LA? You think the targeting of people through this AI system? Stephen Miller knows how financially profitable this is, because he has stake in the company helping ICE with deportations. So we've seen all the signs in the streets. We've seen the abolish ICE, and those are great signs. But I think we've gone up to people, they never even heard of Palantir. They don't know that's the actual system in place, which also is the system that the IDF uses to target and murder children and women. And it's the technology they used to go into Iran unprovoked, as we know. So look, this is the guy, Alex Karp, again. He says the U.S. is very likely, and this is from WikiLeaks, the U.S. will very likely fight a three-front war against Russia, China, and Iran. Palantir's Alex Karp says the CIA-funded data mining company Palantir is supplying Israel's military and intel agencies with AI systems which generate target at an unprecedented rate. Okay, so if you've heard this guy speak, do you guys want to hear the latest thing he's just so we can have a sense of how insane this guy and this company, which now, because of this bill that just passed, is now going to have even more control and going to be basically the private company that's going to be in charge of all the government agencies and keeping everybody in one big fat database. This is what Alex Karp has as far as plans for what he sees in this future, and he tells it to an entire room of what his, I guess he says, his smaller purposes. You think I'm kidding? Watch what Alex Karp says about his smaller purpose. You're not going to believe this.
Higher purpose, and I also think you often need a lower purpose. Like the higher purpose for me.
What's a lower purpose?
Well, I love the idea of getting a drone and having light fentanyl-laced urine spraying on analysts who tried to screw us. So that's my lower purpose. And, yeah, and others. But the higher purpose for me was to get this nation to be the preeminent power in the world, because whatever faults we have, they're nothing like anyone else's.
Whatever faults we have, they're nothing like anyone else's. So all of our enemies will pay the price for challenging, stepping to us, having any critique. People like Kit Cabello and Matt Weinglass might be a problem if we have a critique. So
we're gonna be lined up against the wall, Matt. I'll see you up there against the wall, man. Hey, listen, we'll leave beautiful corpses. How does that sound? There you go.
Here we are. Welcome to dystopian. Terminator 2 meets Minority Report. By the way, Minority Report, I referenced that because that's also part of the technology. Not just targeting people who they're saying are doing crimes. The crime of free speech, the crime of free Palestine is a hate crime. No, we're talking about pre-crime. Like, it literally, pre-crime is we've targeted you as somebody who will potentially do something horrible against this country. So we're going to take care of you now before you do it. That's the world we live in now. Kit, what do we do about this? And is it even worth like shouting about this? Are the Democrats going to hear this part, or they're still stuck on Medicaid and SNAP?
Disregard the Democrats. The Democrats are worthless, all right? It's like a pecker on the Pope, okay? Sorry, no offense to the current eminence. Much love to him. He's a Southsider, okay? But let's be clear. These Democrats are not going to give a damn. They want that Palantir money, too. They want good billionaires. David Hogg learned that lesson the hard way. That's why they kicked them out. And so you're hearing the CEO, and you know something? The way he just even mentioned that, urine-laced fentanyl sprayed on by a dro on all these analysis and other people that got him upset. That sounds like something that you'd hear from Mountainhead, which is a great movie, or he's that from Succession. Like, you're hearing these rich, out-of-touch people try and make a joke, and it's just like, excuse me, but that doesn't kind of make any sense here. Why you're creating something in a big surveillance state that, in the wrong hands, and as we've seen it before with NSA or the CIA or the FBI, all the surveillance technology will be abused and take away more of our rights. So I don't want to hear this talk of, oh, we're free, because you know what? They already got us. Here's a smartphone. Hi, Bob. Hi, Philip. Those are my FBI handlers. Hey, Sam. Hey, Hank. Those are my CIA handlers. John, Billy. Those are my NSA handlers. So, like, there comes a point to where it's either people step up and don't go to the Democrats and actually do something, or either that we keep on voting for this. Because remember, there's no way this is going to be reversed. Everything that was just passed right now is going to be permanent. The Democrats, AOC, all of them are going to talk a big game, but unless they get a supermajority in the House and Senate, and there's going to be people really laying down the pressure, okay, fine. But I fell for this game before because I'm seeing all this hype around Zohran Mamdani, and it's like, it's one mayoral candidate who won a primary. The Democrats are slowly embracing him because of how he faced off against Trump. But remember, he's a Democrat. Remember, these people are Democrats. If they wanted to do something good, they would have done it already. Now let's talk about Planned Parenthood. Where are the protests that were supposed to last day in, day out if Roe v. Wade was going to be overturned? I'm still waiting. But, oh, wait, that happened under a Democrat.
Yep.
Well, now you got Trump in. Where are the protests lasting day in, day out? But don't worry, tomorrow, because I forgot, and I'm glad I forgot. But then I was reminded live on air on my show, oh, yeah, there's going to be a No Kings March July 4th. Yep. Whoop the frickin' do. Another 2. one, right? 2. Another 2. one.
Yeah. Yeah, the sequel.
So I'm supposed to automatically just say, okay, Democrats, great, save us. They can't save them. They can't reverse this unless there is a massive political movement and putting pressure on the Democrats, which, again, putting pressure on the Democrats mean nothing. They want that billionaire money. They want that Palantir money. They want that Elon Musk money. They want that Zuckerberg money. They want the Bezos money, okay? That's what's going to happen. The Republicans are going to accept the loss, and either the Democrats get a majority in the House, maybe half the Senate or whatever. But then, guess what? Ring, ring, ring. Those U.S. Democrats and U.S. Senator and House Representative Democrats are going to get a phone call from their donors, and they're going to be told to shut up and know their role. And that's it. That's just what we're going to witness here. This is an extreme danger to our own privacy. We've been sold out. And then our saviors are going to become flying in saying they're going to save us, but then automatically they're going to have an excuse of, well, here's why we can't do this. And this is because of X, Y, and Z, and 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. And there's a reason that the people in the streets don't know about the war problem, because their party is also funding it, and they have the capture of the billionaire class that's telling them the signs, the things they're allowed to say, the groups that are allowed to be in the street. So make no mistake, you go out to No Kings 2.0 tomorrow or over the weekend, you're basically going to be told, you can bring what you want, but you're not going to see any groups that align with your message of anti-war. They're not going to see any, down with Palantir. You're allowed to say stop ICE, but that's about it. The main thing is you're allowed to say, they want you to say, is stop King Trump. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's the messaging. Meanwhile, a bill like this passes, and it's going to get more people, probably a lot of people out in the street, more than they thought so, for No Kings 2.0. But they're not going to be calling this thing the war spending debacle, which it ended up being. So, if you guys are just joining us right now and you just got word, this is the breaking news that House has passed Trump's massive war spending bill. We're calling it a massive war spending bill. I'm just going to do one more thing on this because we have a lot of stuff to get to. But Kit, this was, I have to credit Fiorella. I was on with her with Truthwire, and she did an exceptional job at going specifically to this part of the spending. This is the money that's going from the bill that just passed. The AI, the weapons part 1. There's 145 million for AI-enabled one-way attack drones. There's 250 million for cyber command AI development. There's 124 million for test resource management center AI. 2 billion for Defense Innovation Unit (DIU) for military use. There's 500 million to prevent delays in these systems, these drones and robots. There's 1.5 billion for low-cost cruise missiles, likely AI guided. So Palantir's not mentioned here, but they're getting all the contracts. That's what's happening here.
They will.
You got the space and surveillance, all this money, billions for this. You got DARPA, cutting edge tech. It's the reason I'm giving Fiorella a lot of credit here, because she had to go through this thing. It's countless pages. We know that none of the congressmen read it all. There's no way they did. To pull this out took a lot of work. So good on her for doing the work for us. But this is where all that's going. There's over 320 billion here broken down to you. You're not going to get any more details in this. They're not going to tell you who's getting the contracts, but we know who it is. We know it's Palantir for most of it. So we got all this cutting edge tech, missile defense, hypersonic missile defense technology, Israel, Indo-Pacific focus. There's all this military stockpiles, infrastructure, army exercises in the Western Pacific. What? Deterrence versus China. So there's a whole mess of cash for deterrence against China. You got cyber and electronic warfare. You got naval and unmanned systems, just billions of dollars going to this stuff. Look at this, number 8, nuclear modernization. Wow. And of course, you got to do border militarization as well. That's the one they love. They love that one. The $1 billion for DoD border operations. Again, this is detention of migrants, military bases. This is all AI technology being put towards this type of stuff. So we're pretty screwed here. I just wanted people to know that this was the breakdown that nobody in Congress got. They didn't take time with this. And frankly, I don't think they care. And I'm going to remind people, it was Marjorie Taylor Greene who said, I didn't know about that AI clause. Otherwise, I wouldn't have voted for it. Well, you knew about all of the war spending. You were okay with that. You just didn't want the clause. So let's be clear. You were fine with all of this. So, and the Democrats are fine with it too, because they get their Ukraine money still. They get to keep, like you said, Kit, they get to keep funneling their money into their,
they're invested into it.
So they're not going to stop. They're not going to say this part's wrong. They're going to be in the street for SNAP and Medicaid. They're not going to talk about this. So kudos to Fiorella for breaking this down for us. But we need you guys to have this information. If you think going out this weekend is important, do it. Put on a free Palestine, get your free Palestine gear, and get the Stop Palantir gear, and go out and have conversation with people. If you think that's your best use of time, do that. But challenge this crap about, King Trump, we have to stop him because he's uniquely evil. No, the entire system's evil. They all want war, and they all want AI surveillance state and everybody in a supercomputer database, which is where we're headed right now as of this bill passing today.
Yeah. By the way, again, folks, who do you think is going to be paying for it? Not only will it be you, but it'll be your children, your children's children, and your children's children. That's who's going to be paying for it. And the price of this bill is the loss of a lot of things that we've been comfortable with. No one should be surprised that the military is going to get a lot of the funding and that all the social programs are going to get the cuts. I would say that the only person who actually had real legit criticism and actually had real arguments against it was, again, I think Senator Rand Paul, and then, of course, Representative Thomas Massie, who is now going to be facing the backlash. And I would have to say to Rand Paul and Thomas Massie, at this point, the way the GOP is declaring war on you, I mean, I get why they're in the Republican Party, but it's either, hey, take over the Libertarian Party and maybe actually try and build something there or whatever. But at this point, there's only been one person actually had a real strong, coherent reason and explaining the real danger, and that is Thomas Massie. No disrespect to Senator Rand Paul, it's just Thomas Massie's been the front and center about explaining overall the price that we have to pay for it. And while I will have my disagreements with Thomas Massie, he's been the only one that has really warned people, and he's going to be that person in all those disaster films who said they saw something coming, nobody listened to them, and then boom. But then again, we're in the same boat too with them. So nobody listened to us because we're all being censored. Isn't that nice?
We
technically have an excuse. Like, oh, you guys knew? How come? Oh, because we're censored. We're censored. Oh, and YouTube is going to be making some more change. You better believe that once these changes go in there too with AI, you better believe that all these firms like Google, YouTube, everybody, Facebook, X, they're going to be embracing these AI programs. And anyone that's not part of the mainstream narrative, good luck finding us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that email from Google, YouTube that's going to say, we detected that your future content is going to be dangerous.
Yeah,
we thought we'd like that's it. When that happens, it's over, man. It's over. Yeah. You're gonna get we decided to take your channel down. We demonetize your channel because you came up in our system as somebody who potentially in the future are going to do something dangerous. Oh my God, that's coming. That's the next thing.
That's the next thing. Clownfish TV, they did a great video talking about how YouTube doesn't like you anymore and doesn't want you anymore. And YouTube is set to replace television. And the thing is, that is true. But if you think YouTube is going to be paying smaller creators, and look, hey, we're Heartlands Media, while we have I think a decent sized subscriber count, we've been in YouTube jail so many times. I know for a fact that I'm preparing for it, and it's really going to suck when we're just done, like bleeding out, bleeding out in the streets, because they're going to do this to a lot of content creators. They're going to be dismissing people. And again, it's because of the all-in trust for AI. And what happens then to the people who think they're in control and their AI decides to say, I don't like you either. Remember, Ultron was on the internet for 5 minutes and realized that the whole world had to go. He didn't do Thanos like, oh, it's got to be half. Ultron was like, all right, now I got to go.